This assignment is for the Jamestown flipped video assignment, 13 English colonies. When the king allowed colonists to come to the New World, he gave groups of people charters. Charters are permission to establish colonies in the New World. There were 3 types of colonies: a corporate colony, a proprietary colony, and royal colonies. Corporate colonies were usually started by companies with investors that invested capital that hoped to receive a profit if the colony did well. 2, proprietary colonies were usually started by individual people. For example, William Penn got a special charter from the King of England to establish the colony of Pennsylvania. He named the colony after himself. 3, royal colonies were colonies that were established specifically from the king, thus the name royal. The king controlled these colonies. Jamestown in particular was established in 1607. This is a very important date to remember. Jamestown, 1607. Jamestown was a corporate colony started by a joint stock company. The company's name was the Virginia Company of London. This company wanted to make their investors lots of profits. In order to do that, they had to lure people to the colony. The company used 2 ways to bring colonists to the New World. 1, they guaranteed them political freedom using a program called the House of Burgesses. The House of Burgesses was the first representative assembly in the New World, an opportunity for white male property owners to have the right to vote. This would guarantee that they would have political freedom if they got to vote on laws and rules that helped establish the colony. A second reason to bring people to Jamestown was economic freedom. The headright system was one way that the company used to bring people to the New World. For instance, they would guarantee you land for as many people that you would bring over in your family. So you would have up to 100 acres or 150 acres per head of the person that you. So if you brought your wife and your child and maybe even an indentured servant, you would get 150 acres of land for each person you brought to the New World. These are 2 ways that the company guaranteed people would come to Jamestown. How did Jamestown survive? It was very tough when the colonists got to the New World. First of all, many of the colonists came looking for gold. They had heard lots of stories from the Spanish about cities of gold. And so a lot of time when the settlers came to the New World, all they did was want to look for gold. They didn't want to really establish homes or farm or do all the things that are necessary to establish a colony. John Smith was a soldier that came to Jamestown, and he was kind of a soldier of fortune. He came for money, but he realized very quickly that the colony was going to die. And people were going to starve to death if he didn't help establish order. So John Smith came up with this motto: "He that shall not work shall not eat." So in other words, instead of laying around and looking for gold, they really needed to build homes and start farming. Another person that helped Jamestown survive was a man named John Rolfe. John Rolfe helped to curate a new crop, a crop that would make the colony of Jamestown very rich. This crop was called a cash crop. Tobacco was extremely easy to grow in Jamestown. It took a lot of people to grow tobacco, but tobacco quickly became the cash crop of Jamestown and allowed the company to make lots and lots of money. John Rolfe later married Pocahontas, the famous Native American daughter of a king, the Powhatan Indians, and she established, with her help, they established friendly relations with the natives. There were at the beginning, mostly men came to Jamestown, single men. And the company quickly realized in order for the colony to continue, they needed to have other people come to Jamestown. So in about 1619, the company established a way to get women to the colony. Women came as wives for the Jamestown settlers. A Jamestown settler could purchase a wife for about 150 barrels of tobacco. Think of it as a mail order bride. But women volunteered to come to Jamestown as wives for the Jamestown settlers. In 1619, another group didn't volunteer. They were actually forced to come to Jamestown. Africans, 20 kidnapped Africans came originally as indentured servants with longer extended periods of time. Later, those Africans would eventually turn into slaves, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But in 1619, you have two different groups of people coming to Jamestown, women and Africans. Just like I said, the difference between a slave and indentured servant, we kind of mentioned those two words just a second ago. Slaves, like the 20 original that came to Jamestown, slaves were usually kidnapped from Africa and brought across the Atlantic Ocean, where they were bought and sold. They worked for usually no pay and oftentimes would not receive their freedom. So they would work their whole lives. Indentured servants, on the other hand, were people who agreed to work in exchange for passage to the New World. Lots of people in Europe didn't have enough money to come across the Atlantic Ocean. It was very expensive. So many of them would sign contracts agreeing to work for about 7 to 14 years as a servant to a family or to a business person. And then after their indentured or their time worked, they would become free and would receive land from their masters as well. This is your Jamestown flipped video assignment. Thank you.